Welcome back, Summoners, to the LVL. We are just coming back from our match 2 game 1 where I gotta say the game changers I Academy did come out a very convincing victory, because the fact that the Warlocks did have a lot of slip-ups. But let us see if they are going to adapt to their mistakes, shake things off, and perhaps maybe end this match 2 with a 1-1. But before all that, we are your shoutcasters. My name is Vulcan, and with me is Arctic. Moving on to game 2 of I Academy Game Changers versus, I would say, Malay Colleges of Laguna Warlocks.
I gotta say, with that earlier game 1, what I really loved about how I Academy played that game was just the execution. You know, it was very clear that they knew what their win conditions are, and even going into team fights, they knew what their roles were in order to successfully win those fights that they put into their favor. You know, just allowing Buggy Van to hit from the back lines, not allow anybody as much as possible to get to him, or whenever the Hecarim or well, technically the Camille never, I don't recall an instance where the Camille never got to him, but when the Hecarim did get into him, like, he would have suffered so much damage that by the time he got there, it's just boom, Buggy Van takes him down. And I think it's ultimately down to whether or not MCL could make the adjustments necessary to get back. But let's go ahead and check out the changes that MCL will be executing for this game. As you can see, it will be Lucis still for the top lane, while Hatred will be fielded for this game, and with Stellar as well for mid lane, and Asuka for AD carry, and McClurd for support. So this is the correct reflection of what we're seeing thus far, as well as subtle changes that they'll be making to hopefully propel them into yet another win going into Game 2 against I Academy.
So let's see, will this be the change that MCL needs to win Game 2 of a match 2 between their opponent, I Academy Game Changers? They did adapt their roster changes, and now let's get to the drafting phase to see how they will plan out their victory. This time, MCL will be playing on the blue side against I Academy Game Changers on the red side.
So there you have it, guys. Looks like first ban, no surprise right there. Not wanting to give up the Z to I Academy themselves. So it looks like they're just going to make sure that they take the extra measure to ban that out. I like the fact that they're also making the proactive move to ban out the Ezreal as well, because Ezreal is just pretty broken, I'd say, for this preseason. I mean, it was bad enough during Season 7. Going into preseason, hey, let's make him all the more painful, and that's exactly what happened. So I'm expecting that Ezreal might be a much more staple ban within the next few weeks of the LVL, until such time that maybe they do make some changes, but we'll go ahead and see. But for the meantime, we'll just hold off the pick and ban for just a bit. Don't worry, guys, we'll be getting into that action in a little bit.
So talking about Game 1, moving on to Game 2, what could be the changes that I would say the Warlocks can change? Because when you're talking about quick adaptability, quick strategy, and how you can shake things off, it's very difficult even for pro players themselves. So what more on the LVL players?
Well, for MCL, I think, like I mentioned, one of the changes that I would love to see them make, or adaptations rather, would definitely be through the drafting and really solidifying their game plan. Because earlier, they had a lot of, again, too many chefs in the kitchen, a lot of people that dish out the damage. I mean, sure, like we mentioned, damage is great. You want to tip the skill towards whether you want to build damage, or if you're a tank, if you want to build a little bit more tankier. But if you have too many of the damage, sometimes you have to realize that you still need that setter to really establish things. Sure, the Ashe and Zyra, I've mentioned, was a staple combo before, but if you don't really have any solid follow-up to that, then that could be a problem. And especially with how I Academy was playing that really well, even though they did that Enchanted Crystal Arrow and Stranglethorns initiate, the fact that it only hits the front line. You know, basically it's just I Academy doing their job. Like I mentioned, it's every player knowing what role that they need to fulfill in order to propel themselves to a win.
Yeah, you can't be the best of both worlds in this case. And the preseason already punishes actually laners who, or teams who draft not someone with a pure attack. I gotta remember the game between UST versus AME where they picked up a Gnar and the Ornn, where the Ornn built very, very defensively, while the Gnar built already the Frozen Mallet. Normally a Gnar obviously rushes the Frozen Mallet, but he pays a heavy price, losing the lane, losing the trade, losing a lot of damage in the end. And now we saw it again in match 2 of Game 1 where the Camille just went for the Trinity Force, then the Ravenous Hydra, where we saw in the top lane this Maokai became such a huge tank. Not to mention the Jarvan, to mention to beat those two beefy frontliners to help their ADCs, their carries, their bursters to really dish out the damage. And I think the Warlocks really lacked a decent frontline.
So overall, we're just going to have to see if MCL can make the necessary adaptations to pull themselves into win, because that was a very convincing 1-1 that we saw earlier during match 1 between UST and AMA. It's just the difference was that UST, with the experience that they have, I feel like definitely worked in their favor during game 1. You know, they definitely had a better level head, although we are seeing a lot of newbies to their roster as well, even though technically speaking, UST, the school itself, has been in the collegiate scene for quite a while now. Meanwhile, AMA, you know, after getting their gatherings, going into game 2, pushed the envelope a lot more harder and propelled themselves into win. The difference here going into match 2 is that it's the rookie that emerged victorious during game 1. So I think there's definitely a lot more pressure as a team that has experience in the collegiate league to try to come back during game 2.
And let's see. I mean, we always talk about, I would say, adaptiveness, game-changing strategy, drafting, but it's very difficult when you actually try to execute it, because I would say for MCL, what they lacked was obviously their roles. Their roles got mixed up. That's my opinion, because when I saw the Camille build towards pure tankiness, of course, it's natural. It's obvious that you would get a 24. It's obvious you would get a Tiamat on Camille. But what happened there was the Hecarim also went for the bruiser type 24s, and then the enchantment was a bit too late. And I think that's why, in the long run, they didn't have a solid frontliner. Hecarim always used his ultimate to really, on one target, to really dish out an assassination attempt. What we saw for Warlocks is that, from game 1 itself, they did not prioritize their objectives properly. They go for 1v1s, in a way that they waste so many resources, especially the Baron pit. The Baron area where the Ezreal got the quarter kill, that's because the Hecarim used the Onslaught of the Shadows, flashed away, and that's how I would say the Warlocks lost all their resources to escape from the flash in of the Jarvan.
And overall, I mean, with this game here, it's all about adaptation. And it's interesting when you talk about adaptation, because in order for you to adapt, you want to have as much information as you can on your opponent. But considering the nature of the LVL, plus the fact, in the case of MCL, you're going up against a team that's completely new, completely fresh to not just the LVL, because everybody's new to the LVL, but the collegiate scene in general. So I think that's one of the trickier parts when you're going up against a rookie team. Sure, they are a rookie in the sense that they lack experience, but they do make up for it with the element of surprise, and, you know, you just have to expect the unexpected.
Expect unexpected?
Yeah.
So what are you expecting in this game 2?
Expectations with game 2, I think it's not much expectations, it's more hopes really. For MCL, again, like I mentioned time and time again, I really hope they adapt and have a much more solid game plan with their draft especially. Again, it's all about knowing what components you need in order to make composition work. If they have decent damage, you know, you want to balance that out a bit maybe. It's really up to the coaches, because one thing is that you could bring up a lot of ideas as to what would work with the comp, but if there's only so much you can do, especially you have to also take into account what the players are capable of doing, what their limitations are in terms of how they play out the game, what their champ pool is. But let's go ahead and see as we head into game 2 for match 2 of the LVL once again.
So right now, again, MCL will be on the blue side, Warlocks, with I Academy Game Changers on the red side. So far, bans going in, Ornn, Gangplank, Jace, Zed removed, and the Ezreal that MCL faced off, who got Quadra, then a triple, will be banned away. So smart move by MCL. They will be taking away the Jarvan that was IAC's first jungler.
Still though, with this lock-in, priority on the Jarvan. Let's go ahead and see what iAcademy will put into response. I'd say the Jarvan, the fourth, definitely a better step up. I like that. I like this pick much better than the Hecarim in a way that at least if ever loses, decides to go for damage, or rather Hatred, if ever Hatred decides to go for damage, at least that Cataclysm is something that they could work with. But then again, I hope it doesn't come to the point where they just build all damage across the board. I really hope that they may have a little bit more balance, or this is also a good measure right here, the Karma. it kind of compensates for a team wherein if you lack the tankiness, at least you have the shields to deal with what damage comes your way. So a good step up so far from what I'm seeing here. Meanwhile, iAcademy going to be feeling out this Maokai, so very solid front line coming in. Saya and Malzahar looks like they will be sticking to the comfort. Import did pop off on this Malzahar quite well. If you recall that triple kill, that was insane.
Because it happened in a way that the Warlocks overcommitted on the turret, and I think this time, for Hatred, he has to really control his urges, his tendencies to just go all in on that under a turret, and then Malzahar was just on point and just suppressing it under the turret's range. Heal was burnt also, and that's how the Malzahar got an easy triple kill and immediately came back to the game. So for the Warlocks, I have to expect that they have to be more in control of their urges to just kill.
Pull it in. But yeah, Rakan gonna be taken in for Sinigang. Meanwhile, MCL gonna be feeling out the Galio as well as Nar. So definitely much more well-rounded. Let's go ahead and see. So Nar top, Galio mid. Okay, so we've seen a Galio mid game yesterday, and it didn't really quite go well for the Galio, I'd say. But then again, if I recall, because the Galio was up against a champion that was really dishing out a lot of damage. I forgot which champion particularly, but I think going up against a Malzahar, it might be a little bit more better because Malzahar himself as well can't really go hard on since his mana costs are pretty higher on in the earlier levels, plus Malefic Visions not quite enough in the earlier stages to help regenerate that mana through creep wave clears. So we're just gonna have to see. Dual bot goals for bot lane though for iAcademy. So ultimately, it boils down to execution, I guess, for both teams. Whether or not iAcademy, being the rookie team, start off their collegiate run on a great note, 2-0, or will MCL, kind of find their bearings here and go 1-1. But we'll just have to see, again, a quick recap as to what the final compositions are for both sides. So, very solid Rengar in the jungle, though. We've been talking about how the
assassin jungler is really shaping the meta of the preseason right now, and I gotta say, this is what I was saying when there's no resistances, no armor for ADC. So if this Rengar gets a really good lead, gets a good feed on, let's say, vulnerable targets, this is going to be a Rengar to be feared. I mean, this Varus can just pop off and deal so much damage, but the Rengar can just go in and just one-shot this Varus because, let's face it, at this point, lethality is even more powerful. Stronger, more lethal, stronger than it was in 7.21 due to the fact that not many ADCs can scale off with their seals of armor. No more runes, defensive runes. They have to depend on how they itemize, and that's why the Ninja Tabi becomes a more favorable pickup for carries.
Right, and still, with iAcademy though, let's go ahead and check out the balance here with the composition. Maokai, a great front line. Rengar could get in on the heftier, juicy target that is the Varus, I'd say. And could take advantage of the squishiness and the Gnar in his mini Gnar form earlier in the game before. And yeah, I mean, Import has pretty much proven himself on the Malzahar as well. Buggy Van and Sinigang performing with the Saya and Rakan. So I'm interested in seeing just how potent this deadly duo is in the bot lane for preseason. I haven't witnessed a game yet with a Saya and Rakan for preseason, but let's go ahead and see how that goes down as we head into the Rift for Game 2, for Match 2 between, once again, this is Lion College's Laguna Warlocks versus iAcademy Game Changers. Let's see if the Game Changers can indeed change the terrain for the LVL in this case by proving that the rookies have what it takes to topple off the more experienced players of collegiate esports. But for the meantime, looks like things are looking safe and sound on Summer's Rift for now. It is interesting to note, though, I'm not sure if Hatred forgot to buy items or if this is intentional. I'm pretty sure he forgot to buy items, though, because without proper jungle items, that's going to be such a long clear for him. And looks like he is making the recall, realizing, like, oopsie, forgot to buy the jungle items.
Maybe he's a bit too excited, a bit tense in this Game 2 of Match 2, because when you're in the losing side, obviously that the tempo is not onto you, the momentum is really not in your favor. So the room for errors that you want to do gets shorter and shorter. So what should the Warlocks do in this case is that ease off, because one of their major flaws in Game 1 was because they didn't know when to just back off. just take a chill pill and just sit down and relax and watch carefully how the opponent moves, because whoever makes the first move in this case, and for Warlocks, they're the ones who makes the first move. And what happens? They end up losing. It's because they don't know what the opponent has, what they're ready for, and they don't even know their damage output. So this is something that the Warlocks will have to take account for.
Indeed. And still, with things going on, let's go ahead and check out these lane matchups thus far. Anar versus Amalka. I think it's pretty straightforward in the first few moments. There's that small advantage with Lucis when in Mininar form, has the range, just could get a few auto attacks here and there onto Nonsense. And like you've been talking, with the changes with the runes, like tanks don't really have the raw stats that they'd have in comparison to the previous season. So it will benefit Nonsense probably to try to farm up and build as fast as possible to get items. But then again, look at the CS difference. Already a wave up Nonsense in comparison to Lucis. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this.
So when you're talking about the... Yeah, I have to agree with you. The advantage is onto the side for Lucis, but when you're talking about tanks, and it looks like a face check for Hatred will cost him maybe his life. Sawyer gets knocked to the air. First blood is at stake. It may go to the Gallier, and yes, it does. And Stellar, though, using his flash, now can escape. A bit low on mana, but he did use his flash. A bit of an unneeded flash there, but he will still be securing the first blood.
Indeed. 1-0 right now. Great start for MCL. Hopefully this will propel them into greater things, especially since it's Stellar that got the first kill. So this will grant him a little bit more harass potential onto Import. If anything, I'm expecting Import for the most part. He's barely going to have his passive up in this lane for sure. For sure, definitely.
Definitely. Because of the Winds of War from the Galio will be the main threat before the Mousehar, because the Mousehar excels in trades, but you cannot win a trade when the Winds of War will keep rocking your passive.
Yes, and let's go ahead and look at this bot lane matchup though. Varus and Karma versus Isaiah and Rakan. One of the things that I like about this is Rakan himself, I feel like he's a little bit more delicate in a way. I remember watching a few games of Rakan in competitive with this preseason change, wherein he's just so squishy in the earlier phases, I think, because of these changes. But then again, let's go ahead and see, because from what I foresee here, if Simikang decides to go aggressive onto both Asuka and McClurg, McClurg could easily get a W onto him, and that could be the window of opportunity for them to retaliate a lot of damage onto the Rakan. So let's go ahead and check out how that matchup eventually transpires in this bot lane here.
Yeah, when you're talking about the bot lane, especially the duo goals, the Zion Rakan, they're not going to be the ones to really control the lane when you're up against a Karma and a Varus. Because looking at the CS right now, we can expect that they are not having a good time in the bot lane despite being lovers.
Nope.
39 CS to 23, that is going to be a really huge setback for this Zaya. And this Varus is getting a free lane, and then when this Varus stacks up pretty well against the Grinsu, and due to the nature of the precision path for the preseason, I gotta say that Varus is a huge threat unless Game Changers actually fight back and control this bot lane. But in the end, this Rengar will be the main man. His only mission is to burst out this Varus.
Man, oh man. Looks like overall, across the board, it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a struggle for iAcademy. But then again, we'll just have to see in these team fights, because whenever somebody goes in onto the members of iAcademy, there's a lot of lockdown potential through Malzahar Snettergrass. Maokai as well has its own form of a root, Swar as well. So let's go ahead and see how this goes down though. But MCL definitely a great start. Looking at things, yeah, I mean, MCL is pretty much up in this early, definitely forcing out iAcademy. But then again, as they continue to force out the members of iAcademy, if anything, everybody's pushed out. But
that would be the Rakan being tethered down by this Karma. And I gotta say, trading-wise, they are really focusing onto the Karma because the fact that a lot of cooldowns are short, ignited, the Varus will be popping his heal, and Sinigang taking a lot of heat from this Varus. They will be backing up in the bot lane. But for now, for the game changers. The Warlocks are doing their best to oppress, to control this bot lane and put it to their favor because they have to depend on this Varus. Their composition relies on the Varus to deal constant damage.
Meanwhile, for iAcademy Swar, I think this is a great move by MCL because I think Rengar is definitely much more potent as a jungler once he has his level 6, once he has that invisibility to just kind of go in at it into lane. So until such time, I like how MCL is abusing that by trying to push out as hard as they can, trying to really pressure across the board here, across the lanes for iAcademy. But let's go ahead and check out how that transpires though, because we are nearing that level 6 mark for both junglers. So that's where I feel like both Hatred and Swar would really start getting their game on. We definitely see a lot more proactivity with this Jarvan as well as the Rengar.
Oh, Jarvan the 4 with Galio, Gnar.
Oh,
that is the combo. That is going to be a huge threat for the Warlocks, and that's what they're looking for. And pair that up with the Chains of Corruption on the Varus, that is something that is very ideal for Warlocks to pull off. And I hope they do, because that's going to be their, really, they have such huge lockdown. Very well timed ultimates can really shape the clash and possibly enable this Varus, Asuka, to really dish out the damage and clean up the fight. But for game changers, they don't need to rely on a perfect composition. They can always rely on the pickups. The Rengar is there, Maokai is there, and I would say game changers, they're very mobile.
Yes.
They're very mobile champions, and I don't think mobile champions will be an easy victim towards let's say a clash or a set coming from the Gnar.
really comes down to positioning here for iAcademy, just so that they don't become susceptible, because when they're grouped up, that's basically asking for it, considering the composition that MCL has, wherein they could just get a complete lockdown with these 3 champions alone, the Galio, the Jarvan the 4th, as well as the Gnar. But still, looking at things, I think the great thing about iAcademy's composition is that so long as Swar could get onto the backline on ski target Asuka once he finds the right opportunity.
Oh,
but
what's
still,
this? Change of Corruption will not land its target. Great predictions coming from iAcademy. They are going to be backing off. CS is now scaling up to 78 to 49. Oh, 30 CS lead for this Varus.
shame that was small missed out opportunity by missing that Chains of Corruption, but still, it's undeniable that pressure is there from both Asuka and McClure. Definitely doing a great job at maximizing the advantages of their lane here. So, even down to the CS difference, 84 to 56 right now between this Varus and the Saya. A pickaxe complete. Actually, that's interesting. He went for a pickaxe as well as a dagger for the attack speed, while Buggy Dan just opting straight away for a BF sword. So, I mean, I guess to each his own. It's really a matter of preference.
Asuka going for the Gwynsu's Rage Blade Rush, where we can see the Xayah may go for the Essence Reaver. But now, looking at the Warlocks, they are invading the blue side of the Game Changers. No blue buff for them to take away. There'll be more information scouting out. And we can see that Sawyer, he is making his way down towards the blue side. May go for a gank, but does spot out this Jarvan. And he does not know. He has to back away. Hatred gets knocked to the air. Here comes Sawyer. Buggyman is at the back. So it'll just be them showing Hatred the message that we know where you are. Just get out of our area.
Yeah, just don't. Just don't. We have our
ward
pretty much
placed.
covered.
Yeah.
Good defensive.
Oh, here comes Meganar onto the wall. That's going to be a lot of damage onto the Maokai. Trying to back away with Nature's grabs. He may escape, but that would be still Nonsense, still holding on to his flash, and Lucis just dealing the damage he wants. Controlling the lane, he is on his Gnar. May opt to go for, I would say he has the, ooh, he picked up the Phage.
This is where things will get interesting. I think, oh, is it? Okay. Just Sword canceling out that recall from Hatred, buying a little bit more time. But yeah, looking at things here with MCL, let's go ahead and look at the itemization. Again, everybody's gearing towards damage. So,
except for, I would say for Game Changers, you can see the Maokai going for his respective build. They go for the Righteous Glory. He is just picking up the Bramble Vest just for the Nard. The Nard finally finishing up the Black Cleaver very quickly, very fast. So he will be picking up the Black Cleaver first to respect the drill path for this Maokai. So let's see what will be his next item. But now we're seeing defensive stats coming in from the Jarvan, and the Galio itself going for the Proto Belt.
Oh man, still MCL considering, or rather continuing the offensive towards this bot side, really forcing out Buggy Van and Sinigang here, and this may eventually lead to a first turret if ever Suar doesn't make a proactive move himself to counterbalance this.
They have to at least secure something. Warlocks, since the first Drake is the Cloud Drake, not much priority there, but you want to get the first turret still, and right now we can see that the Warlocks are doing their best, but looking at Hatred, taking a lot of damage, but see that Rengar is so squishy. Here it comes. Sinigang to the rescue with the Hero's Enders coming in. That would be Stellar, and Mickey's Enders coming in. Import takes down the Rengar, but a double kill for 2-for-1 trade so far. Looking at the position of this virus, Asuka is doing so much damage, and a teleport by Nonsense will pay him the price. Trying to back off, trying to defend his own teammates, fails.
Man, that ultimately ends in a 1-for-3 in favor of MCL, and this will lead them to taking the first Drake of the game. And I think what ultimately became tricky there for iAcademy is that if you're going to look at it, technically iAcademy had a better leg up there just because they had a faster response from their members. But because of how they were positioned, I think that's where they ultimately faltered, because they couldn't really get their bearings. It was just ultimately MCL choosing a target from whichever side that they went. But let's go ahead and check out what happened here. So Suar and Hatred were kind of juking it out for a little bit. And if anything, if you notice, the members of iAcademy, the numbers were there. They had advantage, but then again, because of how it took a bit of a while to get there. So Hatred ultimately going down to import, but the rest of iAcademy, especially for the bot lane, Buggy Van, he was a little bit in late for the fight. That lateness, that tardiness kind of cost him, because the rest of MCL just converged at that point. And overall, definitely a good lead here for MCL. Wondering if they could keep up the momentum there.
So far, good start for the Warlocks. They are learning from their mistakes. Good, that's very good. But now, the question is on the Game Changers. Can they adapt quickly to the changes that the Warlocks face? And now going on to Hatred, he dodges the last Bullet Strike, but will get the empowered Bullet Strike. Here comes Stellar, trying to save his life. Here comes that call, landing at the 3 members, but still Hatred. Still not tagging enough, gets the prize. Now 4 members collapsing onto Stellar. He is not going to make it out, he's alive, giving the shutdown bounty to Sawyer.
Oh man, 4 members just converging, but meanwhile Luce is getting the kill onto Buggy.
He just walks in and immediately gets the backhand of Game Changers. That is going to be 3 members down for the count, and perhaps the mid lane turret will be their, oh my god, their reward for that, I would say, overextended fight. I don't think Lucy should have shown himself, because that was such an easy knockup from the Rakan, plus the root from the Maokai.
And this could be a great bonus for iAcademy because of the time committed by both Asuka and McClure to push out the top lane, allowed them to get this inner mid turret to quite the substantial health down. And this is definitely going to be pressure for MCL, because with this mid turret down, it basically opens up the map for iAcademy. You know, it gives them an equal balance of control both over Rift Herald and Garena, but it looks like MCL gonna go for the opportunity to take Rift Herald because of the time committed by iAcademy to push towards mid. Will they be able to go for the steal though? In fact, this might explode into a fight.
2 members already there on the side of the brush for the Rift Herald. I don't think that will be enough, but Empire does have his flash and ultimate ready. Sawyer does have his ultimate, but I don't think that would be a worthy risk for Game Changers to commit. Therefore, giving the Rift Herald towards Warlocks. They will be taking the 2 turrets and the Rift Herald. They do have the Cloud Drake too, so MCL, this is the same thing we saw. In Game 1, MCL had 3 Mountain Drakes, but it's so sad that they couldn't use it. Now, they have the Cloud Drake and the Rift Herald. So, macro-wise, looks like the Warlocks, they know what to prioritize. It's just the mistakes they made that really just throw things off.
Indeed. And with all said and done for Academy. I mean, that was a pretty good counterbalance because if anything, somewhat puts both teams back on equal ground. And this is just pretty much still anybody's game. It really comes down to execution going into these fights here, in my opinion. If ever MCL could pull the trigger much more faster than Academy, because they have a lot of elements working for them. They have Jarvan the port, forward initiate into a Cataclysm, followed up by Hero's Entrance from Galio for the knockup, Lucius as well for extra measure if he could just basically shove people into walls or even into the Cataclysm for that matter, then that's definitely a great, that makes for a great longer combo. And, you know, just allow Asuka to work his magic on this Varus if that will become an opportunity that is wide open for him. But so far,
I am waiting for the Narvan combo plus the Galio. That's something that I'm waiting to see. Waiting to see if the Warlocks will be able to pull it off. Because if they do, that is going to be a clash that's very, very satisfying to watch. And if they actually win from this fight, they can actually pull the goalie to their favor. And perhaps that clash, the Narvan combo, will be very, very useful when it comes to the point where the Baron gets contested. Because there's walls, very close space. That is Nar's haven, and that is something that the game changers need to take account for.
Indeed. And let's go ahead and check out what's going on so far. As far as distribution, though, I definitely peg it a little bit more onto MCL because it doesn't really matter if Hatred's 0-2 on this Jarvan right now because he's making that adaptation, finally. We're seeing a little bit more of a tankier stance from Jarvan the Fort. So it's a great counterbalance that will mean that going in for the initiates with the Cataclysm, he has a bit more survivability to tank some of the damage that will come in from Academy. So meanwhile, for Academy themselves, Import is definitely in a great place, 2-0 on the Malzar, but meanwhile, you can't really say the same for Buggy Van at 0-2 on the Saya. So again, it's just pretty much wide open, and it looks like MCL gonna go for defensive in this middle lane.
Because the Ocean Drake will be live in 31 seconds. It's common to push out the lanes to prepare Vision so that they can take away the second Drake of the game, which is the Ocean Drake.
Let's go ahead and see there. Luce is trying to shove out these lanes in preparation for the Dragon. Hopefully it will go uncontested once again. But looks like Academy's own members making their way towards the Dragon. Looks like there may be a potential contest in this case. They are shoving out the lanes just so that they could deny that opportunity from MCL to take those Dragons. Looks like I do see things of caution coming in from MCL. Wants to look out for any potential setups that might come in from Academy. Ooh.
They are preparing each other. They want to know, where is Game Changers at this point? Two members just freshly recalled. And I think for Academy, they are going to just give this Ocean Drake away towards Warlock.
Yes, it is a Dragon they could potentially give up for the meantime. But take note, it's going to be a Cloud Drake episode. It's not really as much.
Oh, Gina Corruption landing onto the Rengar. Sawyer's in big trouble, will be forced to just die in the hands of Malayan College's Laguna Warlocks. This opens up the Baron. The Baron is of life right now, and the jungler for the Game Changers are dead.
Looks
like dead. So this leaves the mid lane open, and they have the Rift Herald. Perfect timing.
This will be MCL on the offense on this mid lane. Will take advantage to try to get the siege on. Looks like they won't be continuing for the meantime. Solar is almost up now, so it looks like there won't be any Baron attempts from MCL, but take note, because we are past the 20-minute mark, there's going to be a lot more emphasis. Both teams want to try to establish control over this Baron, because overall, if you're going to look at things, it's still anybody's game. There's not much of a significant lead. MCL by only a sizable margin. So whoever manages to play around this Baron and ultimately win a fight towards it, then I feel like that would be much more definitive. That's where the scale will slowly, not even slowly, probably even substantially tip towards the team's favor.
This is what I'm scared for Game Changers. I'm especially Sawyer, because his role here in this game is to just delete Asuka from the clash, and if they do, they win. They win because they lack damage. They have the Zaya, they have the Malzahar, they have the Rengar. And if Sawyer removes Asuka, Warlocks, they won't have an ADC. And I think that's going to be a huge obstacle they have to overcome. And so far, how they're building, the Gnar won't be dealing too much damage. See, this is the adaptiveness I want to see. Going for the Negatron Cloak onto the Mazaheart. Already picking up the Leander's Torment. So that is going to be a huge threat to this Gnar. And onto Game Changer's side, Rengar getting the Duskblade, getting the Warrior's Enchantment. He has good 80 ranges, but can he burst the Varus despite having the Karma right beside him?
That's a good question, because we did see just how vulnerable Asuka is once he is dived in by Solar. So I think with that said, for MCL, they want to also...
Oh no! Here comes the Gallia coming in. That will be the Hero's Edge. Teleport is going to be trying through the Rengar. Gets taken out by Hatred. And now the 4 members getting rooted down by this Valkyrie. And look at Import and Buggy Van. This is the repeat of Game 1 that the Warlocks were so afraid of. And now they're going to be experiencing their nightmare into the Baron Pit side. The Mega Gnar is there, pushing 2 members away. But there will be no respawn. Luz is trying his best, but he does pop the stopwatch. But he still gets taken down. This is the same scenario we saw in Game 1. And I think the Warlocks just relieved their nightmare.
4 for 1 right now in favor of I Academy. That was crazy. If anything, that was probably one of the worst places MCL should pick a fight. Notice how they were so close quarters right there, and it basically came to an extent wherein Buggy Van free hitting from the backline. Let's go ahead and check it out right here. So basically MCL was so laser focused on trying to get Suar in this fight that ultimately, unfortunately, that was a missed Hero's entrance. I feel like things would have gone a little bit differently, but notice how they basically tunneled on trying to take down Suar here. That everybody was just so clumped up from MCL, they ultimately forgot that Buggy Van was in that fight there. Sure, Buggy Van is behind, but if you're going to fight Buggy Van in a scenario where you just allow those feathers to go through everybody, that's just asking trouble
And
here.
they were always clumped, they were clumped up in a very close space because of the Jarvan, and then Nard teleported there. He didn't have enough time to fill up the rage bar, so this was timing. Timing was really bad for the Warlocks, and I don't know why. That every time they're in the Baron Pit, it always turns disastrous.
I think ultimately, if you think about it, one of the things that MCL's composition does eventually do is that they do end up kind of clumped, especially when Gnar, Jarvan, the Fort Galio initiates. It's just that if we're going to look at things, MCL used so much of their ammo just to try to get that Rengar, and it took so long before that they can take him down. It just allowed a lot of time for I Academy to get into that fight, and that's just something that MCL has to look out for. They want to pick their fights wisely, especially considering the Terran, and they also have to calculate correctly as to whether or not they could take it down a champion in time for the rest of their enemies to respond. Great play, though, coming in from My Academy. Overall.
Agreed. 24 minutes into the game, kill score is 7-8. Malayan College's Laguna, they have 3 turrets, 1 Cloud Drake and 1 Ocean, but I guess the reason why I Academy Game Changers, they gave it away because for them, they're not eyeing the Drakes anymore, they're eyeing the Baron, how they can use the Baron to their advantage. And this is the 3rd time we saw that the Game Changer use it. And Warlocks, again, trying to seize control of the Baron Pit in terms of vision.
Oh, man. Looking at things right there, though, MCL trying to get back on track by establishing their own vision across this Baron Pit, clearly not wanting to give it to I Academy in this case. Meanwhile, I Academy definitely... I think the funny thing about Zor here is that he's somewhat deceptive in a sense that, you know, you're thinking that, you know, because of these pre-seasons, we've been talking about how the Assassins are definitely prominent. You might be thinking that, hey, since he's the more... I wouldn't say OP, but since he's the one that's kind of powerful right now, let's try to take him down whenever he can. And I think with that, Sora is such a welcome distraction for the rest of Academy, especially Import and Buggy Van, to just deal the damage that they can. And it's really showing right now. 3-0-4 on this Malzahar. If you recall earlier, Buggy Van was at 0-2-1, now 3-2-2. So it's just Academy really pulling off the stops here. And MCL, I think, again, making calculated, not so calculated, not really calculated, but not so calculated plays that ultimately just make them miss out in the end.
And at this point, if the Warlocks start to go for the Cloud Drake, Game Changers can just say, let's go for the Baron. So far, looks like the Warlocks will be starting the Cloud Drake. Already we see 4 members on the red side of their jungle. For the Game Changers, they may opt to go for this Baron, but instead they are just positioning themselves, waiting to see who else is out there. And I guess they may not rush this Baron. They do know that the Barons and the Karma are at the top lane.
Looks like iAcademy just playing it a little bit more systematically, not wanting to force things onto the rest of the MCL that is far away from the Dragon Pit right now. Do take note, Lucis is trying to shove out the laner. Looks like we'll be making the recall as MCL is forced to give up this outer top turret to iAcademy.
Well, that is actually smart because normally you would actually push out the top lane turret first before trying out for the Baron. So right now, turret score 4-3. Game Changers having a very minor goal lead, but it's how they always play around the Baron Pit. I mean, at this point, look at all those denied visions.
Denied indeed, and overall, it's really MCL that lost out a lot of vision, so it looks like they'll be countering. We'll try to establish control back to themselves here in the Baron Pit. A great poke right there to get a little bit of damage onto Hatred, courtesy of Baron Nashor himself. But, man, I think both sides realizing just how important this Baron buff is, and whatever happens in the fight will just tilt whichever team secures it substantially. And I think it's not really about securing it. Whoever emerges on top in the team fight, because you can secure the Baron, but if you get wiped out, pretty much useless.
And if you get the Baron and you get wiped out, I mean, okay, you get the 300 gold globally, but the Ace gold value is much bigger. It's bigger than the Baron gold itself, and if you get Ace at this point, the Game Changers can just push all the way towards the mid lane, because seeing how the minion waves are, bot lane is in favor of Game Changers, top lane not so much, and now we are seeing teleport is available for Lucis. This could be Game Changers starting the Baron, and he's in Mega North farm, so this is the timing that Game Changers can look for.
Let's try to look for angles wherein this Gnar could potentially teleport though. There's not, if ever iAcademy decides to go for this, tries to force a Baron fight, there's not really as many potential points that Lucis could go for. I mean, that's within the immediate vicinity of iAcademy if ever they do fight within that Baron side. So, yeah, that's something that MCL has to try to foresee, just so that they have the extra precautions necessary if ever a Baron fight does ensue between iAcademy and MCL.
Ooh, I gotta say for this team, Game Changers, they are really trying their best to hold things up, and Warlock, I love how they quickly adapt from game 1 to game 2. See how little mistakes they make, almost to minor. When they're making mistakes, it's in the Baron Pit, so they have to work on that. Don't just
something
don't.
about Baron Pit.
Just don't talk. Just don't even try. Don't even talk about going for the Baron unless you have total control of where the enemies are, because what happened there was the same thing I saw in game 1 where Warlocks, when they enter the Baron Pit and when they go into one target who is not really a high priority, they lose the end.
So with this nonsense, trying to control this wave pushing out towards iAcademy's own bot lane. And do note though, it's definitely something that can't afford. Both top laners do have their teleport up, so if ever a fight ensues, if ever a fight is forced, both top laners can easily respond, though ultimately it does come down to vision placement. It's not just about vision placement for information on whether or not your opponent might be getting Baron. It's also about the control and also allowing access to your top laners to get a better position into these fights if ever it does come to a point where they have to teleport into the Baron fights.
Maybe 30 minutes into the game, looks like goal lead is really not in play, not in favor of anyone here. But what we can watch out for is how the clashes play out, especially this Narvan combo I have yet to see. Okay, let's see. Hatred going on to Sawyer. We now see characters being used and a flash burnt by Sawyer. So that's one ultimate down for Warlocks, and while Game Changers, they still have 4 ultimates up, except for the flash of the Rengar. So looks like the Warlocks, they will be shoving the mid lane.
Looks like they're gonna go for it. They're gonna go on the offense. Finally, MCL gonna make the proactive move to try to push out a turret. Take note, though, Sinigang is from the side. He could get.
Oh, look at Import aiming for the Varus. The Varus gets down to the end. Import goes straight for the Karma, and Asuka is alive just for now, trying to back away. There's the hero's entrance. He's very low on health, but the Buggy Man is there, trying to deal a lot of damage. Asuka gets the last hit from the little pet of Malzahar, getting the double kill. So 2 members are down, 2-for-1 exchange.
This is just so tricky for MCL at this point. We were talking about how during the earlier game they have a lot of damage, and I think for this game right now, it's such a shame because the only form of reliable damage that they do have is probably from Asuka. And looking at Asuka's status right now, 0, 2, and 5 on this Varus. Probably not as reliable in the damage output right now, especially considering his build map. Runa's Hurricane as well as Vinci's Rage Blade. Not as much damage as I would have hoped going into these fights here, especially when you're going up against a lot more damage coming in from IAC.
Oh, they're going into Buggy Man. Buggy Man flashes away, trying to hide out, and a flash burned by loses. The Frozen Mallet will do the work, slowing down Buggy Man. Finally takes down, gets taken down by this Gnaw, and I gotta say, for the Baron Pit to be the battlefield with the ADC down, 5 members are alive for the Warlocks. They may get this Baron.
MCL could potentially force a fight again, though it does come down to how they juggle this Baron in a way.
Oh, but instead they are going to be pressuring the mid lane, so you want the Baron, but let us take away your mid lane. Looks like Sinigang trying to buy some time. He is stuck inside the Cataclysm, and now Warlocks have to decide. Defend the base right now. They have to do it, because at this point, when they get the Baron, by the time they get the Baron, they would have lost 2 Nexus turrets. So right now, they will be going for the Baron. Looks like, oh, nonsense teleport will be cancelled. And now he may pay the price. So right now, looks like the Game Changers, they took a risky call by going for the turret. They took it down, especially the inhibitor. Now let's see the replay. What happened?
Yeah, let's go ahead and check out what transpired towards the mid lane. So all members just caught out by this Rakan. That is a 3-man knockup coming in there, and it was just a huge collapse. Import getting his probably one of the squishier members of MCL, which was the Karma, and then a good knockup there to cancel out Noir, but it doesn't really prevent Asuka from faltering himself. So that was a lot of casualties compared to, but
oh, look at that. Warlocks taking away the first Baron of the game due to the fact that the Game Changers challenged the Warlocks to the race to their base. And I think in that fashion, some Import really wanted to go for Asuka. And I think since Asuka and the support, McFlirt, was very close to each other in a way. So that's actually a good way to use the combo with the Rakan, knocking up the Varus, going straight for the Karma.
So there you have it, with MCL in control of this Baron buff right now. Let's go ahead and see if they could make well, technically it should be iAcademy as the game changers, but let's go ahead and see if MCL themselves could make game-changing plays that could propel them into the lead. They have an advantage now. They could potentially set up. Let's go ahead and see how they utilize this Baron buff, though. Lucis, take note, for the meantime, is pushing out towards bottom lane and also trying to deal with Sawyer and as well as Sinigang, who is in that vicinity. But looks like Baron buff will make good work of this wave.
And I can see that this Varus, Asuka may go for the Wit's End perhaps. Interesting. He does pick up the Negatron Cloak, so let's see. The Elder Drake will be the next Drake. So this is something that the Game Changers would like to deny. The good choice there. And for the Rengar, Sawyer is seeing a KD of 156, but he does have the Dusk Plague and the River's Ghost Blade, so he may be able to burst down this Varus. So Asuka really has to be careful. Now he positions himself, and they have to look up for this Rakan. Maybe going in for the flank. That 3-man lockup is something that the Warlocks will do anything to avoid.
Indeed. Looks like iAcademy is going to make their own rotations. We'll be heading towards this bot lane, allowing Nonsense to tank most of the damage on this turret, and they're making good work.
Oh, locked on 2 members. This is a clash that may be in favor of the Warlocks. This is the Northern combo coming in, and now the Game Changers are trying to back away. Lucis just takes down. Look at that. This is the clash that the Warlocks were looking for, and they got it.
Man, that was absolutely insane coming in from MCL right there. I like how they were very decisive in getting that initiate. And look at the death timer, still quite heavy coming in from the sides of iAcademy. This may propel them to taking an inhibitor. Take note, Baron buff is still up for them, although still very much nearing its end. But I think the value of what they'll get out of it is still very much worth. This does relieve some of the pressure pushing in from their own mid lane as a result of the loss of inhibitor, and this may potentially propel MCL to a win. Let's go ahead and see how the next few minutes unfold.
So the inhibitor turret gets to with the inhibitor. The Warlocks quick to respond, the teleport with the flag, but let's see the replay here. this will happen.
Yes, this is absolutely beautiful. I love the decisiveness of Hatred to go into this clash and followed up by a beautiful hero's entrance as well. Look at the damage taken. And the great thing about that is he was able to get a lot of the more squishy members, and that was quite the damage. Really paying off for this Galio here. And it was just a collapse at this point. Academy knew that they had to try to back away because there was no way they were going to win that fight at that point. MCL pulled the trigger on their own terms, and it was beautiful.
I gotta say, for game changes, I don't know why they were challenging Warlocks, knowing that it was such a close space, and the Jarvan combo with the Galio worked. Lucis was there just for the cleanup itself, but that's how you want to start your fight. Locking down 3 members, instantly channeling the hero's entrance. That is the ideal clash that Warlocks was looking for, and they've got it. So now, game changers, Academy, they have to think properly before trying something as risky as that.
I think they really need to learn from the clash that they actually won. If they notice, because Academy was trying to force that turret, if you're going to look at their composition, they have the Maokai, Rengar, Malzahar, Rakan. Even though Malzahar is ranged, technically there is a limit to that. So when they're auto-attacking turret, they technically end up clumped together. So that was just a beautiful opportunity from Hatred, seizing that opportunity to see them clump, get them caught into a Cataclysm, followed up by a great hero's entrance, and it was just a beautiful collapse coming in from MC. Let's go ahead and see if they could find those opportunities, or whether or not Academy, because it's very clear how they could avoid these instances. It's all about positioning. Bottom line, like, treat each other like everybody's sick. And, you know, of course, when you have people that are sick, you want to try to keep your distance from them.
Are you saying that they have like some kind of virus or a plague?
Well, they want to treat each other as though they have a plague. Like, unique plagues, not the same plague, but, you know, different ones, just so that, you know, they don't want to get other sicknesses. But yeah, you get the point. Basically, bottom line is they want to keep themselves separate. Just treat each other like, okay, get away from me, just so that we don't all get caught up in one big blur.
Yeah, I mean, when you group up knowing that there is a Jarvan, that is just a death wish. And also the Gnar. So at this point, the Warlocks, they have still yet to time the Mega Gnar engage, but that doesn't matter because the Galio and the Jarvan will do the timing for them, buying time for Lucis to stack up his rage, and maybe this could be another 1-1 we're going to be expecting.
Maybe, just maybe. 15-10 right now on the scoreboard. MCL really building up the momentum. I'm not even going to bring up the goal difference because still, there are so many ways this could go wrong. It's ultimately about who executes better in these clashes. Academy, they just really want to wait on MCL to lose out on their tools for initiation. If they could dodge through that, we did see it earlier. They were able to win those clashes. Meanwhile, for MCL, they want to find an opportunity where an Academy is grouped up together. So I think at the end of the day, it's really up to Academy based on their positioning. Bottom line, they don't want to catch themselves again in a position where they're grouped up together. And if they could pull that off and find an opportunity for MCL to exhaust all those initiate resources, we did see how much of an impact it makes when Galio doesn't land the hero's entrance onto anybody.
Sinigang just gets spun out, gets knocked to the air. Hero's entrance coming in. Sinigang gets taken down by Asuka. Looks like we're going to be seeing Sawyer cannot even go in. Gets zoned out. Another great Cataclysm coming in from the Jarvan. Locking down 3 members. Buggy Van going with the Feather Storm. Still gets the taunt from Stellar. Now Sawyer has no escape. Has to just back off import. The only member remaining. Flash in from Lucis. Get the slow from the Frozen Mallet. And that is the shutdown and the ace for the Warlocks.
Oh man, and this may potentially be the game. Death timers are so heavy on the side from Academy. It's just crazy here at the LoL Varsity League right now. A 1-1 earlier during match 1. This may very well be another 1-1. Sinigang is up in 2 seconds, but what can a Rakan do when you're up against all 4 members of MCL hitting hard on this Nexus?
So looks like the Warlocks, learning from game 1, adapts quickly. No more mistakes that we see. The smallest mistakes that we see are gone. And because of this, Malayan College's Laguna Warlocks secure game 2 of match 2, ending this match with a 1-1.
That was beautiful. Again, I was talking earlier about how MCL wants to not find themselves in a situation where they're clumped up. But another thing is that neither do they want to find themselves in a position where they're so far away from each other that members themselves are isolated. They want to keep a respectable distance from each other, but not too far to a point where they could get picked up. And I think that's what happened in that last part right there. MCL found that opportunity, seeing an isolated target, and just went full force. And I think what's really nice about that at the same time is Jarvan the Fourth didn't even need the Cataclysm to push for those first few kills. And yeah, overall MCL, round of applause, ladies and gents. That was a really nice game, and I'm really loving the caliber of plays that we're seeing here from the LPL. Definitely a great step up from the OCL.
So there you guys have it. That's been match 2 between, I would say, Malayan Colleges Laguna versus I Academy, ending the series with best of 2 series with a 1-1. And I'm pretty confident to see that in the LVL, that if this continues on with a 1-1, every school will have their debut in the first League of Legends Varsity League in the Philippines. So there you guys have it. We'll be having a short break. Moving on to match 3 coming up next. So be sure to catch that. We have been the Shoutcasters. My name is Vulcan, and with me was Arctic. See you after the short break. Takes down the Rengar, but a double kill for 2-1 trade so far. Looking at the position of this Varus, Asuka is doing so much damage, and a teleport by Nonsense will pay him the price. Trying to back off, trying to defend his own teammates. Oh no! Here comes the Galio coming in. That will be the Heroes Anchor. Teleport is going to be trying to do it. The Rengar gets taken down by Hatred. And that'll be 4 members getting rooted down by this Valkyrie. And look at Import and Buggy Van. This is the repeat of Game 1 that the Warlock were so afraid of. And now they're going to be experiencing their nightmare into the Baron Pit side. The Mega Knight is there, pushing 2 members away. But there will be no respawn. Luce is trying his best, but he does pop the stopwatch. But he still gets taken down. The Varus gets knocked in here, and Import goes straight for the Karma, and Asuka is alive just for now, trying to back away. There's the Hero's Entrance, he's very low on health, but the Buggy Man is there, trying to deal a lot of damage. Asuka gets the last pick from the Lieutenant of Malzahar, getting the double kill. 2 members are down. In favor of the Warlocks, this is the Norman combo coming in, and now the game changer. They're trying to back away. Lucis just takes down. Look at that. This is the clash. Gets knocked to the air. Here's Enders coming in. Sinigan gets taken down by Asuka. Looks like we're going to be seeing Sawyer cannot even go in. Gets zoned out. Another great Cataclysm coming in from the German. Looking at 3 members. Buggy Van going with the Feather Storm. Still gets the taunt from Stellar. Now Sawyer has no escape. Has to just back off Import. The only member remaining. Flash in from Lucis. Get the slow from the Frozen Mallet. And that is the shutdown. And the ace for the Warlocks.
Oh man, you're guessing all 4 members of MCL hitting hard on this Nexus.
So it looks like the Warlocks, learning from Game 1, adapts quickly. No more mistakes to be seen. The smallest mistakes that we see are gone. And because of this, Malayan Colleges Laguna Warlocks secure Game 2 of Match 2, ending this match.
Not enough Garena shells to buy the latest League of Legends skin? On sale now? Get shells anytime, anywhere with your Globe or Touch mobile number. Go to gamer.com.ph and sign up with your mobile number and enter the verification code you will receive via SMS. Log in and choose the game and pin you want. Check out to purchase the pin with your load or through your postpaid account and receive the pin on your phone instantly. Never miss a sale on your favorite League of Legends skins and champions with Gamer.